Hey there, welcome to another episode of Fans in Motion, the Ultimate Night Ranger podcast. This episode part three, with the interview of Michael Cartellone, drummer of Damn Yankees and Lynyrd Skynyrd. So if you're finding this episode first, you got to go back and watch the first two. This episode, me and Michael kick it off with the getting ready to record "Don't Tread," the second Damn Yankees record in 1992. And we talk about that album, the tour, kind of where they went after that. We talk about the Shaw Blades record, and we get into the mythical third Damn Yankees record. And we talk about what's true and not true, and what was recorded and not recorded. So we get into all that history, and we get into some of the Lynyrd Skynyrd stuff and his artwork and all kinds of other great stuff. So make sure you stick around to listen to all that. What else do we got coming up? I know back in, I think, February, March, we had an episode, me and Dave Nadelman mentioned uh, getting in depth and doing, chronological stuff on Night Ranger, which seems to be the new big trend nowadays. Uh, it's taking a little bit longer. I got a ton of crap. I'm trying to, get organized because we're going to go through everything: the records, the 45s, the memorabilia, and all that good stuff. It's just I got a lot, and I got to make sure it's organized because we are going to spend a lot of time on each record. So we got that coming up. We still got some Eric Levy shirts. $32. Everything goes to Eric Levy. Get a hold of me. And we got some of the Fans in Motion shirts still left. We got this one here. I think I got every size in the Fans in Motion still left. I know we're out, I think, out of medium of the Eric Levy. And then we got the Cheap Trick Fans in Motion, always on tour because we are. The touring season's getting really hot too. I can't wait to see everybody out there this summer and fall. So, anyways, there you go. Get a hold of me on the Fans of Motion Facebook page. Here it is, part three, Michael Cartellone.
Nice lick. I have a feeling this is going to be a.
So you guys do monster touring all of 90, 91. Um, High enough obviously takes you guys to another level. It did you guys always know that there was going to be a second record?
Yes,
Um,
it was a 3 album deal
okay.
with Warner Brothers.
So you go in again with Nevison to record the follow-up. Um, was there anything different going? I mean, obviously you guys even at probably more cohesive by playing live, 800,000 days and in a row. Um, what was different about the second record, Don't Tread?
Well, beyond the roles being more defined from all the live work, um, I think that the songwriting uh, um, matured a little bit. The songs uh, were maybe deeper thematically. Some of the arrangements were certainly far more complex. Some of the orchestration got more elaborate. I would say Don't Tread was more of everything.
Hmm.
And I love that record. I personally feel, from my own standpoint, the drumming on the second record, Don't Tread, is better than the first record. Even though I love the drumming on the first record, and we spoke about coming of age and the unique stuff in there, the drumming on Don't Tread is the next step. And it's because of having all of that touring under our belt and you know thinking more as a cohesive unit because of all the amount of time we put in. Again, even though we on the first album we had that 10 months, to write songs and get together in each other's basements every now and then. That's different than going out there and playing 6 and sometimes 7 nights in a row, which Damn Yankees did on tour, and just becoming this red hot performing entity. So we just knew exactly how each other's brains worked when the time came for the second album. And across the board, the performances are noticeably elevated, I think.
One thing I remember about that record is MTV had a live show, 5 o'clock or something, and they would play a new video every day. And somehow I knew that Damn Yankees Don't Tread was going to be premiering that day. I was at my grandma's at this time. And I went back to the room and I put the VHS tape in to record it. This is why I kind of remember it. Um, and it was Don't Tread, I'm excited. The new Damn Yankees, awesome. But what I remember about that is after they show it, they announce what the live video or what the premiere video for tomorrow will be.
Hmm.
And the premiere, and tomorrow will be premiering Jeremy by Pearl Jam.
Aha,
And just, thinking back, it was like, it's almost like the changing of the guard. You know,
truly.
grunge was um, coming in. And I mean, were you guys so into it, into your own world and your job and doing what you guys need to do? Did you guys notice that change at all? You know, um,
It was undeniable. It came on like a freight train, Pearl Jam and Nirvana, and everything changed. But by the time it really took hold, we had already finished the cycle of Don't Tread. The record had been out. We had already finished the tour, and we were uh, um, we were going to do the third record, um, and it was then. And now I'm talking 1994. So by this time, grunge has already taken
yeah,
hold. But that Don't Tread tour was very successful. The record did well. It didn't sell as well as the first one did, um, but it went gold.
mm,
And and we had radio success again. And but when that cycle ended, it was very apparent that the music scene was changing quickly.
very quickly. I graduated in 1995, so I
Hmm,
was starting high school when all this stuff, you know, came out, and
sure.
it was just almost overnight where you
It
know
seemed like it. It seemed like it. Yeah.
girls had big hair and Danger Danger and Slaughter and all that stuff, and then the next day girls are not there, no makeup, no hairspray, flannel. I'm still here with my damn Yankees and my Night Ranger going, what the fuck's going on? And and I mean, I could count on my hand in high school who I could talk to about
Hmm,
damn Yankees warrants, and stuff because I tell people the Billy Madison movie. I don't know if you remember it,
sure.
where he has the birthday party and he hires like the 80s band and it's a mockery, of everything. But
Yes.
that's how everybody in my high school looked just overnight at all those bands. And so it's just, I mean, just and it happened so quick. I think it's different when things are changing and maybe you have time to adjust, but um when it's just a slap and more like maybe a punch. Um, I was just wondering how, much of that you guys saw. So after Don't Tread, we're kind of going into late 93. We know that you guys have that third album, on the deal. Um, you know, I know Ted's kind of got a solo record. He's been, having to do. What's your guys' game plan? Do you guys sit down and talk like, hey, we're going to do this, and then come back?
Well, quite simply, we had just finished an incredibly concentrated and exhausting 5 years of work. The two albums and two tours ended up spanning 5 years, really, if you put it all together.
Hmm.
And we did have a third album for Warner Brothers that was going to need to be done. But at the end of that Don't Tread tour, we realized we needed to take five. Ted did have that Atlantic Records solo album that he was already a few years late on delivering. So he thought, well, maybe if we're going to take a little break, I'll go ahead and do this solo record because I owe it to them. Tommy and Jack had started writing some material that was a bit of a departure for the Damn Yankees sound. So Tommy and Jack thought, well, if Ted's going to do his solo record on this little break that we're taking from Damn Yankees, maybe the two of them will do a duet record and call it Shaw Blades, which they actually did. I ended up working in both camps. So I played on the Shaw Blades record with Steve Smith, the drummer from Journey. Steve did more of the record than I did. And then, although I didn't record with Ted on his solo record, after it came out, I went on tour with him in his solo band to promote it. As well as I did dates with Tommy and Shaw as Shaw Blades. And we hired a young guitar player, four-piece band. We opened up for Van Halen in the Sammy Hagar era, Shaw Blades in Oakland, I think. Yeah, that was fun. Anyway, so that was, let's call that 94,
That that would have been 95.
95. Okay. Um,
Well, couple things. So, the Ted Nugent record, that was Spirit of the Wild. Um, and I saw you guys that summer.
oh, really?
I went and saw Nugent, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm seeing half a damn Yankees.
Yeah.
Um, so I saw you guys at the Newport here in Columbus.
Yes, yes.
Um, and uh, and that,
Did we play? Didn't we play "Don't Tread on Me" in the show? Because that on that tour, we had a bass player. It was a three-piece band,
yeah, it
and
was.
we played the song "Don't Tread on Me."
So I saw Ted in late '94 opening for Lynyrd Skynyrd. I don't know if you were with him then.
I was,
Okay.
yeah.
I do know you guys played the beginning of Don't Tread. You didn't play the whole song.
Oh, that's weird.
Um, I do remember that.
Yeah.
I do not remember if you played it. I think I would remember. I don't think you guys did. I just remember being at Players Amphitheater. It was Pride and Glory, Ted, and Michael Cartellone, and Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Yes.
And yeah, he the beginning of Don't Tread. I'm like, fuck yeah. And then he went off to do something else. I'm like, fuck. Uh,
We did. Yes, I do remember him teasing it, but we did eventually start to play it at the show.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I saw you guys that summer. Uh, it was in July at the Newport there. But the Shaw Blades record. probably one of my favorite records of all
Great stuff on there.
time. That is one of my cruising, like I told, I had to tell Jack, I'm like, listen, one of my greatest memories was driving across country when I was 20 years old and my buddy's asleep in the back. So it's just me in the desert with the snow-capped mountains, no service next 100 miles. And I just got that Shaw Blades record and it's just perfect. But when that album came out, you know, I remember them like doing like in the magazine, they're working on it. There's a song titled Don't Talk to Me Anymore. I'm like, man, it's going to be a banger. Like that thing's going to be the next Don't Tell Me You Love Me or whatever. I get the record and I'm just like, what the fuck did I just listen to? Obviously I'm a fan that grew on me, but I just remember thinking, this, you know, this is either genius or this is suicide. Like, I couldn't tell what. Um,
I think
you
I'm
know,
on that song.
um,
Yeah, that's one of the ones I did.
yeah, more of like percussion kind of, maybe or something like that. Yeah, it's a great album. I love that album. But so what do you remember, just do it, were you, were you like, wow, this is different, is it what you expected, just obviously I
Yeah,
know you're not going to go in there and say, what the fuck you guys doing? But what was your thoughts when they like, hey, this is what we're doing?
I loved what I heard, and some of it caught me by surprise, and some of it uh, you can almost anticipate because their writing had Tommy and Jack writing together. It really had developed and started to take some cool twists and turns. So some of the things sounded like an extension of what I already knew of them, and there were other things that completely caught me by surprise. One of the songs that I'm on is called Blue Continental.
Yeah.
Really cool song. Definitely very, very uh, different, di different approach, departure kind of thing for them. Yeah.
Yeah, like Come to Be My Friend. That was
Mm.
a little, different. And there's stuff
Wow.
you can, you know, I Stumble In's got a little bit of rock to it, and the ballad at the end, I can't remember the title, but but like I said, I love the record. It was just at the time I was just like, this is, I don't know. I remember like I didn't know if I wanted to recommend it to my friends. It's like that's how strange it was,
Yeah.
which my friends all end up enjoying it. But yeah, just but like I said, just such a fantastic record. So now, so with Shaw Blade one, you said you had, had went to do the Shaw Blades, like in the band. So I remember Shaw Blades was supposed to play the Newport. I had tickets. I went to so many shows. I knew the head of security, and we were talking. I said something about I got tickets to see Shaw Blades in a couple months or something like that. He goes, that show's not going to happen. They're getting ready to cancel it. I remember he said something like maybe someone broke their arm or something like that. I don't know. But it did end up getting canceled. Was there supposed to be a tour that they were due and they just nixed it or whatever?
Yeah, it just didn't pan out with the kind of support that we had all hoped. Um, if memory serves, we probably did 10 shows, maybe. But it was intended to be the whole summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it those shows, because I really don't know anything about these shows. Were they, you know, I saw them when they did the second one, like 2007, and it was more like an acoustic
Yeah.
type, environment. Was this, you know, a more of a rock show, or were they really highlighting the hallucination and doing more acoustic stuff?
No. It was more of a rock show. We were playing the songs from that record, but they were electrified.
Mm.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
And they're obviously playing some Sticks and Damn
Yeah.
Yankees and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I don't remember what was in the show, to be
Mm.
honest, but it was, we were supporting the Shaw Blades record,
Yeah.
so it's predominantly that material. But no, it was absolutely a band environment with a fourth guy, a guitar player that we hired. It was a good
Um,
band.
yeah, like I said, I remember we had tickets and then we found out it was getting canceled. And um, now, obviously, that we're getting into the period where, you know, Styx gets back together, Night Ranger gets back together. Um, but I do know that somewhere in 95-ish, you guys get back together as Damn Yankees. You still have that third record out there. It's Damn Yankees has got so many myths and legends out there. The myth, which is not a myth, it's true, where Warner Brothers eventually basically pays them not to record a record.
Correct.
Just take us through that time period where you guys reconvene to work on that third record in the mid 90s.
Okay, so it's probably late 95, maybe early 96. And we still have the third record that we are going to do for Warner Brothers. So the four of us get back together. We start demoing up songs, and I'm not sure how far we got into the process. We probably had at least half of the album written, and then Warner Brothers came to us and said that they've decided they don't want to release the third Damn Yankees. They don't want to release a third Damn Yankees record. They want to focus on this whole grunge thing, which now had really solidified itself.
Mhm.
So they basically gave us a really big fat check to walk away, which we did. Um, but we still fully intended to continue with Damn Yankees. So we continued writing new material for what would be a third album.
So the
Fast forward, fast forward a couple months, that summer, which I guess is
probably
96.
96.
Okay. So the summer of 96 rolls around, and we are still writing Damn Yankee songs. We haven't really gone out to secure a new record contract, but now the summer tour season is upon us. Tommy goes to do a Styx tour. Jack does a Night Ranger tour. I go back out with Ted and do a Ted tour. Those summer tours happen. They end. The four of us get back together and continue writing Damn Yankee songs. Fast forward a few months, the next tour season comes up. Night Ranger, Styx. At this point now, I ended up doing an album and a world tour with Accept, the German heavy metal band that people might know from the song Balls to the Wall.
You did the Predator album.
I did the album Predator, right, which was a wonderful experience. So that happens. Styx, Nugent, Accept, Night Ranger. When those tours are done, we get back together again and write more songs. So over the course of, I'm just going to ballpark it and say between late 94 into 98, and by this point, I'm already in Skynyrd, but we're still doing these get together things now and then. We probably have 25 Damn Yankee songs that were written in that little 4 or 5 year period. Um, and what happens is John Kalodner, which was fate, I think, comes back into our story he has now moved over to Sony Records and has started a label called
Portrait.
Portrait.
Yep.
He's going to resurrect the Portrait label. So he signs Damn Yankees to Portrait. And the Damn Yankees are now going to do a third record. And we've got this wealth of material that has spanned 5 years of sporadic getting together in between our other bands that we play in. So we we sign the deal with Portrait. We end up getting so busy with our other bands that we never get around to recording the record. And now we're at least a year late in delivering the record for Portrait. So what ends up happening is we start recording this record, but now we have two other band members to help kind of fill the gaps, because Tommy Shaw, Jack Blades, Ted Nugent, Michael Cartellone are so busy with their other bands, it's gotten very hard to focus on the Damn Yankees project, which it really was just a project at this point, because we were in other bands. So, as a way to help move things along, a singer-songwriter named Damon Johnson, who was from the band Brother Kane, which did well in the 90s, joined to be an additional singer-songwriter guitarist. And Kelly Kagi, your buddy from Night Ranger, was brought in to do some additional drumming alongside with me. So this is now, I'm going to say 2000, that we start recording this record for Sony Portrait. But it is very disjointed and it's very piecemeal, because the 6 people I just mentioned are never in one room at the same time. People are flying in when they've got a few days off from their band's tour, doing some recording, flying back out. There are songs that feature Tommy, and then there are some songs that feature Damon Johnson, which sound very different. So now it's a scenario where you have, within the collection of something called Damn Yankees, you have 2 different bands that sound not like each other, and it's not cohesive and it's a bit disjointed. But we do in fact continue recording like this very odd scenario. A man named Luke Eben was producing the record. Luke is the guy who did the Bon Jovi record with It's My Life. Great producer, very successful with Bon Jovi. He was producing this record and really given a trick bag, because he was now trying to figure out how to make something that was not cohesive sound cohesive. It would have been 2 great records, but not one combined record. And in essence, what happened was, once we finished all the recording, we then listened to just some rough mixes, and it was incredibly apparent that this thing was not ready to release. It was all over the map. And it needed to be what a Damn Yankees record could have been. And in order to do that, it meant to a certain degree going back to the drawing board and getting everyone working together instead of just phoning it in individually. But then what happened, once that decision was made, okay, so this isn't ready to release. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's redo this. Let's write a new one here. Let's tweak that, blah, blah, blah. Then it became a scheduling problem. Oh, well, the Styx tour is coinciding with the Skynyrd tour overlapping when Night Ranger just finished in Nugent. And it became very apparent that yet again, it was going to be almost impossible for everybody to be in the same room. And it was then decided of, you know what, let's just call it a day. Let's just squash this thing. We'll never release it. And we'll just all walk away from it. And that's what happened. Fast forward about 5 years, some of the songs that were recorded for that record did trickle out on other records. There is a song called Shine On that was one of those Damn Yankee songs that Jack redid and released it on a solo album. There was a song called Yes I Can from Damn Yankees that Tommy redid with Styx and came out on a Styx record. And Ted took Damned If I Do. Is that the name of it? We were talking about it before.
Yep.
Yeah. Same scenario. A Damn Yankee song from the unreleased third album that he reworked with other people and released years later on a solo album.
Mm.
So if people are curious what that third Damn Yankees record might have sounded like, there are 3 songs that are out, although they're not necessarily performed by Damn Yankees, although Shine On has me and Tommy on it.
Yeah. And Jack's album has another one, We Are the Ones.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
4 out there that you can go and listen to. Like Yes I Can, they just basically
And since you bring it up, We Are the Ones was a Damon Johnson co-written song.
he may play on Jack's record.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you listen to We Are the Ones and then you listen to the other 3 I mentioned, right there you'll hear the difference. You'll hear how We Are the Ones has a slightly different turn.
Mm.
And herein lies what was the issue with that unreleased third album.
Give Nobody Nothing. Was that a Damon song or was that a Tommy?
That was a Ted thing.
Um, because I've said on the podcast before, I have in my ears the that third Damn Yankees record, so I know of it and what it sounds like, and um, I mean, what you say makes sense. Like there not being a cohesive, you know, uh, maybe sound to it or whatever. I still think one of my favorite songs from that record, I'm surprised no one's ever recorded, was Don't Stop Dreaming. Um, One thing I noticed from the when I listened to that record was there wasn't a lot of Tommy, at least vocally. I mean, I don't know about musically, but it just
Yes, that's correct, and that was one of the things that Colauder said.
mm,
Back to the drawing board, rework some things, more Tommy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because this was close to being released. I mean, I do know that they gave it to another producer to see what they could do with it. And I guess it came back was like, there's really nothing else I can do that's not already been done. Um, I do know in Japan, and maybe it was in the States, but how they would issue like a SKU number, like here's
Mhm.
the barcode for it went that far that it was in the release cycle. Now the album has been called, or it's been said it was going to be called Bravo. Was that, is there something there? Was it something you guys talked about, or is that just something that's
I think
gonna,
that's something that the universe created.
okay?
'Cause I was never in a conversation where that was
Yeah.
said.
Well, maybe it might be. I had to look. It maybe it was on that I'll send it. I can find the photo, but that SKU where they have like putting out the albums and being released on Sony. It may have the album title there. Now the only other thing that it was out at that time was there is one promo shot of Tommy, Ted, Jack, and Damon Johnson.
Yes.
Um, and I mean, obviously I love Damn Yankees and stuff, but it's like even that photo, it's like, well, I don't look like the Damn Yankees I remember. Like Ted's like in a blazer or some shit or something, and and
So
I
that photo was done here in New York, ironically, but I'm not in it because I was on tour with Skinner.
don't.
So I did a photo session somewhere else, and the idea was they were gonna Photoshop
Right.
me in.
Because I will post that every now and then on um the Fans of Motion page, and everybody like who's the new drummer? And I'm like, all right, you need to go back, listen to episode whatever. It's not a drummer. It's
You know, that photo kind of illustrates how disjointed the whole thing was.
I mean that photo is a visual representation of what you said.
Truly.
It's like it just to me it didn't look like Damn Yankees. It looked like
And you know what? Damn Yankees was too damn good to have something come out that we all couldn't believe in.
mm,
And that's the bottom line.
yeah. And I get it. I mean, I always wanted to hear it. Um, I think, like I said, the one song, Don't Stop Dreaming. I mean, to me, that just someone's got to really, I told you the story, and I think I've mentioned on the podcast where I was talking to Jack, and I was just like, if I had written that song, that would be like one of my crowning achievements. And you guys write it, and it's just sitting in some vault somewhere, like, um,
I
but
will tell you this, that was one of the first songs written when we got back together after that Shaw Blades Nugent tour summer.
yeah, I mean, I can see where, they're still coming, it's the Shaw Blades kind of feel to it. I mean, it is a lighter song, but Tommy's so good on it. Such,
Yeah,
um,
right.
you know,
As
and,
always.
and I mean, I'm glad Yes I Can came out because
Mhm.
I think that's a phenomenal song. I think lyrically it's just great. Um, and so I was always glad that one came out. So, yeah, we mentioned it while all that's going on. Um, you get a call from the good old boys. Um, how does a damn Yankee end up in the number one Southern rock band?
Well, believe it or not, it's a damn Yankees connection. And that is Tommy Shaw. Because Tommy had released a record called Seven Deadly Zens.
Yep, great record.
And I played on that. I played a few tracks, but most of the record is Todd Zuckerman, the drummer from Six, brilliant drummer. Tommy wanted to go out on tour to promote that record, and I did the dates with him. And this would have been late 1998. And the dates that we did um, were opening for Lynyrd Skynyrd. So in the autumn of 1998, I'm playing in Tommy's solo band, opening for Skynyrd. And by this time, I had already known the Skynyrd guys socially from seeing them over the years and touring with them in '94 with Ted, as you had mentioned. Um, but that friendship was kind of further established being on the tour with them that fall. Fast forward, they are recording a new album, and this would have been in the fall. Well, no, November, I think. Well, November is the fall, isn't it? They were recording a new album, which was going to be called Edge of Forever, and Ron Nevison, the Damn Yankees producer, was producing the album. um, they had hired Kenny Aronoff, brilliant drummer, to do the drums on the album. And then um, I just happened to stop. They were recording in Nashville. And I happened to stop into the studio. Nevison invited me down. He said, "You know all these guys. Why don't you come and say hello?" Which I did. And then Nevison hired me to do percussion on that album. The tambourine, cowbell, the frosting on the cake at the
Mhm.
end, um, and which I did, and it was very fun. And then they said, "We're looking for a drummer. Are you interested?" And I said, "Of course." So in November 1998, I joined Skinner, and because of the Damn Yankee tie-in, literally, our producer was producing them, and I, with my Damn Yankee bandmate Tommy, had just been their opening act.
And you
So it tied all together.
and you got to play. I mean, being there, going on 25, going on 30 years almost. You got to play with Leon. You got to play with Billy.
I did.
Um,
And
obviously
Gary,
Gary. Um,
Gary just passed away a couple of years ago. God
did
bless
you
him.
did you
Yeah, so it was amazing to join the band and have three original members in it.
yeah.
Correct.
Did you ever
Yeah.
get to play with Ed King?
One time, and it was when the band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Um,
Ed got up and played with us.
all right.
What a great
Um,
guitar player. Rest in peace.
I'm a big Ed King fan.
Hmm.
Uh, a big Skynyrd fan. I mean, I go through phases with bands, and I don't know, maybe last year I got into like another big Skynyrd, kick where dig deep. And I think what I pulled out of it was just how well those records were produced
Oh,
back
yeah.
then. I mean, they're so
And performed. The way those guys played on those early records was just brilliant.
mm,
And they have very intricate arrangements and the way the guitars and the drums play in unison. It's just really brilliant. And a lot of the club bands that play these songs, they miss some of these little intricate things that happen that truly make it sound like Sandra.
oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
You just can't kind of bash your way through the
mm,
chords on these songs. There's a lot of really detailed things in there
well,
that when you put them all together, it creates that sound.
I mean,
Very unique.
you had three geniuses. You had Alan Collins, you had Gary, you had Ed King, and all of them just. I mean, you can just hear if one's doing something, you can hear someone else doing something else, and
And
um,
then steering that ship was Ronnie Van Zant,
yes.
who was a poet.
Mm. I always love hearing the stories about them writing in Hell House and
Oh yeah,
doing all that, and
yeah.
um, and did you ever get to meet Bob Burns?
I did at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction.
I don't know. I remember watching maybe a documentary. He just seemed like an interesting guy. He was telling some great stories, and yeah,
Well,
it's just
he was a great drummer. Rest in peace. Did some brilliant work. Right now on tour, we're doing the song Swamp Music, which has a really, really clever, hard to execute drum part. Tip of the hat to Bob Burns.
yeah. I mean, so many great songs. I mean, I think what got me when I was younger was like I got tired of hearing "Give Me Two Steps" and "Don't Ask No Questions." So it's like I kind of pushed them off to the side, and then it wasn't until a little bit later in life where On the Hunt and all that stuff, the deeper tracks. I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit, there's some really uh, great stuff there. And I guess you're not the first. I mean, Ed King was, you know, he wasn't from the South. He was a so I guess you're not the first to hail from the North, but
I'm the first damn Yankee in the band.
yeah, that's well. That's what I tell people too. Is like, as like if you go see Leonard Skinner, you're seeing two members of Damn Yankees, since Damon
You say that now. That's right.
is in the is in the band. So Charlie Chaplin, I know, you do some art, and I think you just did like a silent film festival or something maybe with him. Where does where does Charlie Chaplin enter your life?
Uh, 10th grade, Solon, Ohio, in the suburbs of Cleveland, where I went to high school. There was a film history class, and one of the movies they screened was a Chaplin movie called The Gold Rush, which is actually just celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. Um, and it just cemented my fascination for him. And I have never tired of watching those movies over and over and over and over. I have friends in the Chaplin family now, which has been really fun. They've come to Skynyrd gigs, which seems like a bizarre kind of timeline thing that shouldn't happen, but did. Um, and I've done some Chaplin themed paintings as part of my fine art career, the other half of my life. So, yes, Chaplin is very near and dear to me, and kind of from the same era, Harry Houdini. So I was a magician when I was a little kid. You can't be a magician and not, you know, admire Houdini. Um, so I'm also a lifelong admirer of Houdini. Done paintings of Houdini. In fact, Houdini and Chaplin in a painting together. Um, so yes, it's nice to have some other interests outside of rock and roll.
Well, it's weird you mentioned film history because I had a film history class, and I think we watched Gold Rush as well. But that's where I kind of got into like, Humphrey Bogart. I remember
Sure.
watching probably Casablanca, but uh, that's where I kind of got into my older movies. Um, but yeah, just like I said, just now Chaplin is one I guess I never got into. I mean, I know of him. I probably own a couple films, but interesting, you know, life, and I mean, it's got everything. I mean, all the way up to them trying to steal his body after he passed away. Um, and his family, like you said, mentioned family and stuff. I mean, I think what is it his granddaughter was in Game of Thrones or
Yes.
um
That's right. Yeah.
uh um
Yeah. Some
the
of his children and grandchildren have gone on to have, you know, decent acting careers. His daughter, Geraldine, was in Dr. Zhivago, very famous movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um and then the you talk about the second half, and well, maybe it's not the second half, maybe it's the first half because you started art when you were 4.
Right.
um you have obviously the art that you've been posting on your Instagram page, and you have like the different galleries of, I know, Wentworth and some of
Mm-hmm.
those. Um, I think, and I know just enough about art to be dangerous. Uh, what I like usually when I mean, maybe I just don't know enough artists, but it's like when I see your work, it's all kinds of styles. Like,
Correct.
uh, I don't know, you get I know you were doing like the pixelation stuff for a while.
Yeah.
Um, and then you would do the stuff where it's just colors, and stuff. And but then, that you got picture, paintings that, look like they could be a picture.
Thank
And
you.
um and I guess like I don't know, usually when I'm reading about artists, it's like one style and they stay that. And it's like I was like,
And most artists do that. And it's one thing that I've gone out of my way to not do, is to not limit myself to one subject. I've found it more interesting to just go wherever the muse takes me. And that's why I'll do everything from a photorealistic portrait to a traditional landscape to crazy, colorful pop art. It's more fun to me just to have the expression decide what is going to be the next painting.
So what? So I used to be like, I used to like the the paintings that look like realistic, right? And I hated the ones that were abstract or just colors. And then I just remember, I don't know if it was Picasso. I just remember I read a quote and it changed my whole mindset where he's like, why would I paint something that you could go see? Like, I want, I want you inside my mind, right? And like,
Yeah,
oh, that opened up this, so I started getting more into the abstract. And it's like, you do like some of the, just it's probably right on your Instagram, but you did a recent painting. It's just like blue, different shades of like light blue and greens. And like what I see in it is, you remember the Voyager spacecraft when it would go out to those planets and the gas planets, you'd see the layers of clouds. And it's like, well, that's what I see. And to me that like that's what art is. Like, what do you see? So I love seeing all that stuff.
some of it is just wanting to experiment and see what happens. The painting that you're talking about, which I only did about 2 months ago,
It was very recent. I remember that.
I literally just squeezed a bunch of paint from the tubes onto the canvas, and then I took a plastic comb and just pulled through the paint. And whatever the paint did was the painting. And it just so happened to create this beautiful blending of colors. And it was just kind of a fun, happy accident. And then the very next thing I did was using a putty knife. And just all of the painting was done with a couple different colors, but just a putty knife where I couldn't go with the crazy detail that I do like to do every now and then to make it photorealistic. I couldn't do it with a putty knife. It it prevented me from getting too caught up in that minutia that I admittedly like to do. But it was so liberating just to take the putty knife and just start. And then that one ended up looking like clouds
Hmm. Well,
against a blue sky. But it was just a putty knife doing all these bizarre movements.
that's one thing I like too, when you can actually see the stuff in person. Sometimes I don't know if it's the putty knife or what, but when you see it in a photo, it's there's no
There's no texture, yes.
texture, like
Whereas those two paintings I just described are all about texture.
so it's like
Yeah,
when you're talking about that knife, now I'm just thinking like, well, shit, it's probably raised and I could look at it. Mm.
absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but I like some of the did you do like you just did like George Harrison?
I've done a bunch of beetle paintings.
Well,
Yes.
that was just one just recently. I remember you
Well,
posting.
there's one that the last beetle painting I did, which took a full year because I went crazy photorealistic detail, is them on the rooftop while they're playing the last live performance
Yeah.
ever. But the painting is from the vantage point of Ringo. So it is what it would have felt like to be Ringo on the rooftop. So what you see in the painting are the tom toms and the cymbals. Ringo's actually not even in it. It's called Ringo because it's about him. But then you see the back of John and the back of George and the back of Paul, and then the London skyline. It's a huge painting. It's 5 feet across, 3 feet tall. Took me a full year. Um, very, very proud of that painting.
Is that something you own or did you sell or
I still have it. Yes, it's here in the house.
um
Everything that I paint is with the intention of selling. So
yeah.
And if
Um,
people are curious to see that Ringo painting, all of my artwork is on my website, michaelcartellone.com. There's some music stuff on there too, but predominantly art.
and but yeah, like I said, I remember, because my favorite, I guess, originally was like all the Renaissance, stuff, Van Eyck and obviously the Michelangelos and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Or like when they first started doing like dimensions, like Giotto and that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. Uh, it's just recently I've gotten into more of, like you did one that had like two little sailboats.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
one of the comb paintings.
but like, so I'm like, so those colors reminded me, not not like the actual drawing or whatever the boats, but like the colors reminded me of, is it Monet? Like the real springy,
Yes,
yellow and uh,
absolutely, absolutely. And the other comb painting to me looks like water lilies, which is Monet, very famous artwork.
like I just remember going to I always tell people like you don't have to like art, but if you're in Philadelphia, go to the art museum. You know,
Amazing,
obviously do your Rocky stairs, go pose with Rocky, but go inside. It's just absolutely,
incredible.
you don't have to be, into art or anything like that. But and I noticed too, you were naming some of them after like rock songs,
Well, the last three were all rock songs.
like
In fact, the one with the sailboats I called "Come Sail Away."
yeah. So I couldn't remember
I,
what they
I
were.
sent a picture of it to Tommy. He
Yeah.
loved it.
But yeah, I mean it's and I think because I have no artistic ability. I mean, I may be able to squeeze the tubes, like you said, and do some scraping, but I think that's why maybe I appreciate it just because I feel like I don't have, that
Appreciating is all that matters.
mm,
And to pick up a pencil or a paintbrush and just have the expression is a wonderful thing to do. It doesn't have to be anything great. It doesn't have to be anything that someone else has to appreciate or that someone wants to buy, but the expression is a wonderful thing. So anyone can draw, paint, sculpt, whatever, just to have the expression and to release that creativity. It's a very healthy thing.
yeah.
That's part of why I do this because I have to release it because it gets like a songwriter, it gets bottled up and you have to get it out. And if someone else likes it, even better.
Yeah, and you never know what will, you know, speak to
You
people. It's
know,
like,
you never know.
I've seen local artists where I've walked by something and just something sticks out and it's to me it could have been in Philadelphia. Um, but so what does the future lie for Michael Cartellone?
Well, most of this year is sitting behind a brand new drum kit that I just built a few days ago with Skynyrd. We have a very good year planned. A lot of international touring, which I'm really happy about because I love going to Europe. I have family in Sicily, so I'll see them. Um, more painting, more music. That's pretty much how life, you know, is looking for me for the foreseeable future.
And what details do you have of this damn Yankees reunion?
Well, first of all, there isn't one. I will tell you that we have never broken up and never said never. But there are no plans for a Damn Yankee reunion. If that ever happens, it would be a wonderful thing. Is it possible it could happen? Sure. Who knows? It's a wacky business that we're all in. We're all still great friends. We all still keep in touch. Quite often, a text chain will go on for days with the four of us back and forth. And we are all collectively very proud of what we've done on those two records. And it would be wonderful for one day to, dip the toe back in. So who knows? It's people like you that would make us do it.
Well, I do know that it's one of the questions I get asked a lot. The questions that on the social media they get asked a lot, is and there's definitely people haven't forgotten.
Yeah. And
And
I will tell you, Josh, that first album came out 35 years ago. Unbelievable. And is still selling. We are still getting royalties from the first Damn Yankees record 35 years later. So we must have done something right.
well, Michael, I appreciate you coming on. This was a treat for me. Like I said, my 12-year-old self would never have believed this.
Well, thank you, Josh. This has been
Again,
fun.
the music you guys created with Damn Yankees, and sure, there's other people out there that have Lynyrd Skynyrd podcast who could say the music you've created with them. I mean, just, I guess I just want to say thank you. Um, the music means a lot, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thank you, buddy.
Nice, real nice. Tasty. Wait a minute!
All right, there you are. How was that, man? If you've watched all three of these episodes of Michael Cartellone, this has got to be the best history of Damn Yankees. He was there. He was a part of it, beginning to end. And he doesn't hold back. He answered every question I asked, and there was nothing I couldn't ask. And he talks about everything. So if you see Michael Cartellone out there in the world, you tell him thanks for doing this because it was awesome and a great honor to have him on the podcast. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. That's stuff like this is definitely for all the hardcore fans out there like myself. Click like, subscribe on the whatever it is here, the YouTube page. Click subscribe, go to Facebook, type in Night Ranger Fans of Motion, click join the group. Your life will, if you're not in the Fans of Motion Facebook group, are you even living? So anyways, see you on the next episode. Later.